The Illyrian sky was always cold, always clean. A flawless wash of silver blue stretched across the sky dome, unbroken by clouds. Untouched by storms, artificial satellites shimmered faintly above, their orbits precise, unyielding. On the ground, great towers rose in geometric perfection, casting long, sharp shadows over the marble streets of Ithan Prime. Kale stood atop the observation deck of the High Command Citadel, his arms folded behind his back, his eyes focused far beyond the skyline. His uniform, a metallic weave of cobalt and white, clung to his lean frame. His face, angular and sharp, bore the calm serenity expected of his kind. Yet his jaw tightened just slightly when he watched the holographic news stream, flickering at his side. Another Vorid incursion, another breach on the border perimeter, another dead patrol. Predictable, said the voice beside him. Kale turned. High Commander Virel stepped onto the platform, his boots soundless on the obsidian floor. His silver hair was tightly coiled, his expression unreadable. They raid, we retaliate. They strike, we advance. It is a cycle of primitives. You, Kale, were born to end it. Kale inclined his head. Is the mission confirmed? Virel nodded. You leave tonight. The Accord meeting on Station Zeta 3 is a formality, but we require a strong presence. You'll accompany the diplomat. Observe, report, deter if necessary. Kel's thoughts stirred behind his composed gaze. The Accord was a joke. Peace talks that led nowhere. An endless theater of hollow words between a species of logic and one of chaos. The Vorid had no sense of order, no structure. They lived in trees, chanted to moons, and wielded a kind of magic that defied Illyrian science. And yet, they were persistent. As he descended the platform and entered the transport bay, Kale couldn't help but feel the weight of it all. Generations had fought this war. His own father had died in a skirmish along the Vorid boundary wall. The conflict was a legacy he had never asked for, but could never refuse. Across the void, on the living moon of Thiara, Lyra walked barefoot beneath the glowing vines of the elder grove. Her long auburn hair moved like flames in the gentle wind, her bronze skin kissed by moonlight. She reached out, laying her hand on the bark of the heart tree, and closed her eyes. The song came to her a vibration that was not sound but sensation. The tree remembered. It remembered peace, long before the Illyrian came with their cold machines and bright weapons. It remembered when the two species were sisters beneath the stars, not strangers at war. You are troubled, came a voice. Lyra turned to see her grandmother, the matriarch of the grove, walking toward her with a staff grown from the branch of the oldest root. Her eyes were cataracted, but filled with knowing. The wind changes, Lyra replied. There's movement in the air, a ripple in the branches. The matriarch nodded slowly. The Accord will meet soon. They will send another silver puppet in armor. But you, child, you will go in my place. Lyra's heart tightened. Me, you've seen the enemy. The elder said, you fought them, and you've listened. Lyra remembered the battlefield near the broken ridge. She had healed a wounded Illyrian soldier once disobeying command. She had expected hatred. Instead, she had found confusion, fear, and silence. No emotion, no soul. It had haunted her since. We must give the wind a new song, the matriarch said. Go to Station Zeta. Speak for us. Show them what they've forgotten. The station was a relic of another age, orbiting between their worlds like a grave marker. It had been built by an ancient species now lost to time, its corridors lined with alien glyphs that neither side could fully decipher. Now, it served as a neutral ground if such a place could exist between enemies. Kale stood in the docking bay, hands behind his back, as the Vorid delegation arrived. The woman at the front was unexpected. She did not wear armor or ceremonial furs. Her robe was simple, dyed with organic pigments, the hem lined with symbols that glowed faintly in the station's sterile light. Her eyes, amber, unreadable, met his with neither fear nor contempt, just curiosity. I am Lyra of Vorid, she said, bowing slightly. Daughter of the Grove. Kale inclined his head. Kale of Illyrian High Guard. They held each other's gaze for a moment longer than necessary. The diplomat beside Kale cleared his throat. Formalities began. Hours passed in a blur of debate. The delegates from both sides argued. In circles, accusations, denials, rehearsed grievances. Kale remained silent. Observing, Lyra spoke little, but when she did, it silenced the room. She spoke of the land, of wounds the Ilarian machines had left. She spoke of children growing up with fear as a lullaby. Kale didn't speak, but something shifted in his chest. Later, in the quiet hours of false night, Kale walked the outer ring of the station, watching stars pass through the glass arc above. He didn't expect to find her there, standing alone with her eyes on the void. "You do not sleep?" she asked without turning. "I do not require much," Lyra smiled faintly. "Of course not. Machines rarely do." He frowned. "You think we are machines? I think you've been taught to be." Silence stretched between them. "You speak as if we have a choice," he said, "don't you?" She asked. "No," Kale replied. "Not when every choice is war or dishonor." She turned to him, eyes gleaming. "Then maybe it's time to make a third choice." Kale studied her, unsettled by her presence, by how easily her words pierced the armor he wore not on his body, but within. He had expected a fanatic or a barbarian. Instead, he had found someone who questioned, who listened, someone unexpected. The next day, the talks collapsed. A Vorid outpost had been attacked. An Ilarian scout ship was found destroyed. Each side blamed the other. The station erupted in shouts, weapons drawn, alliances frayed. But Kale and Lyra stood in the observation dome once more. Alone. "I will be recalled," Kale said. "The High Command will not tolerate this. They will prepare for war," Lyra replied. He nodded. "You could come with me," she said suddenly. "Just for a moment. To see our world. Not the battlefield. The real Vorid." He stared at her, stunned. "That would be treason." "It would be truth," she said. "And maybe the truth is worth more than loyalty to a lie." Kale looked out into the stars, then back at her. The pull inside him of something forgotten, something forbidden tightened. He didn't speak, but when she turned to leave, he followed. Far below, two worlds turned slowly in orbit, locked in a centuries-old dance of destruction. Above, two souls stepped quietly toward a story that might just change everything. The transport vessel hummed softly as it cut through the silence of space, sleek and black like an obsidian arrow. Kale sat in the co-pilot's seat, staring straight ahead, though his thoughts were far from the navigation grid. Beside him, Lyra adjusted the organic interface, her fingers moving over glowing roots that pulsed with a rhythm not unlike a heartbeat. It was strange. Everything in her ship felt alive. "This doesn't feel like a ship," Kale said after a long silence. "It isn't," Lyra replied with a small smile. "It's grown. We raise our vessels from skytrees." Kale glanced at the walls, which seemed to breathe. "Your world defies logic. And yet here you are," she replied, eyes forward, flying toward it. "I still don't understand why I agreed." "Yes, you do," she said, without looking. Kale said nothing. Outside the viewport, Vorid filled the sky like a living emerald. Lush jungles and massive root networks glowed faintly. Even from orbit, lightning danced across swirling storm clouds. The planet pulsed with energy raw, unpredictable. As they descended, Kel's pulse quickened, not from fear, but anticipation dangerous in a soldier. He tightened his grip on the armrest. They landed in a forest clearing surrounded by trees taller than towers. Vines reached toward them curiously as Kale stepped onto the mossy earth. The air was thick with humidity, fragrant with scents he couldn't name. Colors shifted subtly, as if the very environment was aware of their presence. "You're tense," Lyra said as she led him along a winding path through the trees. "I'm out of uniform, in enemy territory, surrounded by life forms I can't classify." "Of course I'm tense. No one here will hurt you," she said gently. "You're with me. That's what worries me." Lyra stopped. Her face, usually soft, turned firm. "If you don't trust me, Kale, say so." He paused. The jungle hummed around them. "I don't know what I trust anymore," he admitted. "But I'm here, aren't I?" She studied him, then nodded. "Then keep walking." They passed beneath massive arching roots, through glades where glowing birds sang in harmonic trills. Other Vorid watched from the shadows, some curious, some wary. Kale felt their eyes on him, like insects crawling beneath his skin. When they reached the village, he froze. It was nothing like the Illyrian cities, no straight lines, no rigid angles. Homes were built within trees, connected by bridges of woven branches. Light came from pods that pulsed like stars. Children played barefoot across branches, laughing. No war machines, no guards, just life. "This is where you live?" he asked. "This is where we begin," she answered. As they walked, a young boy ran to Lyra, throwing his arms around her. She knelt to embrace him. Cale watched, something shifting inside him. The matriarch emerged from one of the larger trees, leaning on her staff. Her eyes, though, blind, found Cale instantly. "So, the silver weapon walks among us." Cale bowed slightly. "I mean no harm. Few who carry that much steel ever do," she said. "Until they do," Lyra stepped between them. "He is here with my blessing. Then I will honor your choice," the matriarch said. "But if he brings pain to this place, he will feel the jungle's teeth." "I understand," Cale replied. That night, Lyra took Cale to a place she called the Echo Pool. It was hidden beneath a waterfall. Fed by deep currents from the planet's roots, the water shimmered in strange colors, reflecting memories instead of images. "They say the pool shows not what you see, but what you feel," she said. Kneeling at the edge, Cale crouched beside her. "I don't trust magic. And yet, here again you are." She dipped her fingers into the water. Images swirled, flashes of Kel's face, his eyes filled with grief, fire behind him. A soldier dying. He pulled back instinctively. "That's not possible. The pool reflects truth. You carry more pain than you show." "I carry what must be carried," he said stiffly. Lyra's voice softened. "You carry it alone." Cale looked at her, and for a moment, something broke in him. "My father died on the border, killed by your kind. They never found his body, just ashes. My mother never spoke again." Lyra's face darkened. "I am sorry. My people have lost fathers too, and sons, and homes." He nodded. "So we keep fighting, or we stop." "How?" She touched his hand, and this time, he didn't pull away. "By choosing to see, not what we're told, but what is." In the days that followed, Cale lived among them. He observed rituals, learned their songs, watched the way they healed with touch and story. Slowly, the harsh walls within him began to erode. He stopped checking for threats. He stopped counting exits. He started listening. One night, as they watched the twin moons rise through the canopy, Lyra turned to him. "You were trained to hate us, yes, do you still?" He looked at her, really looked, and saw not a Vorit, not an enemy, but a soul as lost and searching as his own. "No," he said. She reached for him, and this time, he didn't resist. Their kiss was quiet, like wind in the trees, fragile, uncertain, but real. But peace is never left undisturbed for long. The next morning, smoke rose from the western ridge. A Vorit patrol returned, bloodied, limping. Illyrian scouts crossed the barrier. One hissed. Kel's breath caught. "They're looking for me. They'll destroy the grove if they find you here," the matriarch warned. Cale turned to Lyra. "I have to leave." But she shook her head. "If you leave now, they'll kill you. If you stay, they might kill all of us." "Then we must stop them," Cale said. Together, the matriarch stepped forward. "You would fight your own. I would stop this war. If I can," he said. She stared at him for a long time, then nodded. "Then you will need the voice of the forest." Lyra's eyes widened. "You would give him the crystal." "He is already a bridge," the matriarch whispered. "Let him carry our truth." She reached into her robes and drew a crystal grown from pure life force, an artifact of the old days, before the rift. It pulsed softly in her palm. Cale reached out. As his fingers touched it, visions flooded him, memories not his own. Laughter shared under twin suns, children of both bloods playing. A time before war, a forgotten truth. He staggered back, gasping. "You've seen," the matriarch said. "Now decide who you will be." Later that night, Cale and Lyra stood at the edge of the village. "If I go back, it may be a trap. If you stay, we'll be hunted," Lyra said. "But maybe there's another way." She placed the crystal around his neck. "Whatever happens," she whispered, "you are not alone." And as the stars wheeled overhead, Cale realized that what had begun as a mission had become a purpose. He would no longer serve war. He would serve truth, and he would fight this time for love. The moment Kel's boots touched the metallic floor of the Ilarian landing bay, the atmosphere shifted, sterile, cold. Every breath tasted like regulation and steel. Behind him, the Vorit crystal beneath his armor pulsed faintly, as though reluctant to be here. He handed over his access card to the guard and was met with silence. Then came the click of weapons being drawn. "Agent Kale Virek," a voice barked. "You are under Detainment Protocol 17 for unauthorized contact with enemy species. Disarm immediately." Kale didn't move. "I bring intelligence that could end the war. You'll bring it to command," the officer snapped. After debriefing, "On your knees." Reluctantly, Kale obeyed. They bound his wrists in magnet cuffs and led him through the inner corridors of Citadel Astra. Memories flooded back, years of loyalty, missions, the cold comfort of rank. It felt foreign now. He was thrown into an interrogation chamber. Harsh white lights, a single chair, mirror walls. Hours passed before someone entered. Commander Rethan strode in, Kel's former superior. Silver-haired, hawk-eyed, every inch the Warforged tactician. "You're lucky I stopped them from throwing you out an airlock," he began, tossing a tablet on the table. "What the hell were you doing in Vorit space?" Kale raised his eyes. "Learning the truth." "The truth," Rethan echoed, unimpressed. Kale took a breath. "The war is built on lies. The Vorit are not what we've been told. They're not monsters. They're people, with history, with memory." "You sound like a damn traitor." "No," Kale said firmly. "I sound like someone who saw them as they are." Rethan stared at him, cold fury simmering beneath his calm. "We intercepted transmissions while you were gone. Your signal, your voice, speaking their tongue." "I made contact," Kale admitted, voluntarily. "And what did you bring back?" "A song and a flower." Kale reached under his collar and pulled out the crystal. It pulsed brighter now, resonating faintly with the chamber's energy. "This is the voice of the forest," he said. "It holds memory, real memory, from before the rift, before the war." Rethan frowned. "A Vorit toy." "It's not a weapon," Kale said. "It's proof." Rethan stepped back, folding his arms. "You really believe they'll listen to you, Kale? That our High Council will sit around a table with creatures that burn our border colonies and poison our skies? They do that because we did it first," Kale said, standing now. "We struck first. Over a myth. Over fear." Rethan moved faster than Kale remembered, slamming his fist into Kel's gut and forcing him against the wall. "You don't get to rewrite history," he hissed. "You are Ilarian. You swore an oath." "I swore to protect my people," Kale gasped, "not to obey blind murder." Silence. Then Rethan stepped back, wiping his hand as if Kel's skin left something foul. "You'll be transferred to the tribunal. They'll decide what to do with your treason. They'll bury the truth," Kale said, "like they always have." "No," Rethan replied. "This time, they'll burn it." As the guards dragged him away, Kale closed his eyes. The crystal pulsed once more, then dimmed. 2 days passed. In solitary confinement, Kale meditated, focusing on the crystal, letting its visions replay in fragments. The laughter of hybrid children, the joining of roots and wires, a single symbol carved into stone in both Vorit and Ilarian tongue, origin. It wasn't just shared history, it was shared blood. He had to get out. That night, the lights flickered. A low hum filled the cell. Kale opened his eyes just as the wall panel slid open. A silhouette stepped in, tall, hooded, not a soldier. "Get up," the voice whispered. Kale recognized it immediately. Tara, his former squadmate, missing for months. Rumors said she'd been executed after questioning the council. "I had friends in the shadows," she said. "You do too." "Why help me?" "Because I saw it too," she said, pulling a data chip from her sleeve. "The truth. They've been hiding it for decades." She inserted the chip into a terminal. Maps bloomed on the wall, overlap zones, genetic convergence, language matrices. They erased shared origin records, she said, redacted ancient genetic data. Vorit and Ilarian split only 500 years ago, barely more than a generation in cosmic scale. Kale stared. "We were one people." Tara nodded. "And someone wanted us divided." The door alarm buzzed. No time. She handed him a coat and a cloak. The underground network still exists. Get to Subsector 9. There's a freighter that doesn't ask questions. Cale hesitated. Come with me. Tara shook her head. I'll delay them. You carry the message. As the alarm blared, Cale slipped into the utility corridor, heart racing. He made it to Subsector 9, disguised as a supply runner. The freighter's engines were already warming. Just before boarding, he activated the crystal again. A new vision. A temple hidden in the ruins of the borderlands. Two emblems Vorat and Alarian joined by a ring of light. It wasn't just truth. It was a location. A place that could prove everything. As the freighter lifted off, Cale made a silent vow. He would find that temple. He would expose the lie. And he would return to Lyra not with hope alone, but with undeniable proof. But high above, on the Citadel's upper floors, Commander Rethan stood before the High Council. He's running, one counselor growled. Should we terminate? Let him run, Rethan said coldly. He's playing into our hands. Behind him, a hologram of Kel's crystal rotated slowly. Scanned and copied in secret. We have what we need. The borderlands stretched before Cale like a graveyard of forgotten wars, twisted metal, scorched soil, and shattered monuments to battles neither side dared speak of. The freighter had dropped him miles from the coordinates revealed in the crystal's latest vision. Now he traveled alone, cloaked and armed, shadows his only companions. Storms loomed overhead, electromagnetic pulses crackling through black clouds. Natural and unnatural energies colliding in unpredictable tempests. The region had been abandoned. For decades, labeled volatile territory, but Cale knew better. It had been buried. He checked the crystal again. Its glow pulsed in sync with something underground, like a heartbeat echoing from beneath the ruin. With each step, images flickered in his mind, ancient architecture carved in both Vorat vines and Alarian alloys. Twin statues holding the same orb of light. He descended into a ravine where nature had begun reclaiming the ruins. Broken pylons jutted out like the ribs of a fossilized beast. As he entered a collapsed structure, the crystal grew warmer. Closer, inside, the walls were covered in writing-fused alphabets, Vorat and Alarian entwined. One line stood out, glowing faintly. We were not born divided, but made so by the fear of unity. He reached a circular chamber sealed by two handprints, one human, one distinctly Vorat. Without hesitation, Cale placed his hand over the human mark. The other remained untouched. He was only half of what was needed. Back in Vorat, Lyra stood before the matriarch's tribunal, stripped of her ceremonial robe, barefoot on the living floor of the Elder Grove. The air was thick with judgment. You brought the Silver One among us, one elder hissed. You offered him sanctuary, and in doing so, you endangered the root of the world. I brought truth, Lyra said evenly. He did not harm us. He listened. Love has clouded your sight, another elder said. Your blood sings with foreign rhythm. Lyra didn't flinch. Then let my blood sing. But hear this. Cale Virak saw us, truly saw us. Not as monsters, not as threats. He saw a future. The past cannot be undone, the matriarch said sadly. And the present cannot ignore betrayal. By Vorat law, union with an enemy is heresy. Heresy, Lyra repeated, her voice sharp. Or hope. Silence fell. The jungle outside stilled. Then the judgment came. You are stripped of your title. You are exiled until such time the truth you believe can be proven. The sentence echoed like thunder. They took her staff, her crest, even her name song cut from the records. And so, Lyra left the Elder Grove alone, guided only by memory and instinct. But she carried something far more dangerous than weapon or title, the memory of Kel's touch, and the vision they'd shared. She, too, had seen the temple, and she knew where he would be. Cale sat inside the chamber, waiting. Hours passed. The storm above sent tremors through the earth. His rations dwindled. His hope thinned. Then, he felt her. The vines at the chamber's edge parted, revealing Lyra mud streaked, cloak torn, eyes fierce. The sight of her made Kel's breath catch. You found it, he said. She smiled faintly. You left a trail a blind skybird could follow. He stood. They exiled you. She stepped forward. They were afraid. Without a word, she reached for the second handprint. when her fingers touched the stone. The seal responded. The wall dissolved into light, revealing a staircase descending into ancient silence. They exchanged a look. Together, they stepped into the unknown. Below, the temple glowed with bioluminescent veins and old-world technology. Massive murals depicted a single species, neither fully Vorit nor fully Illyrian. One people, united. A final chamber waited. Inside, a sphere hovered between two statues. The voice of the forest crystal leapt from Kel's chest and embedded itself into the sphere. Light filled the room. Memories flowed, not visions. History, they saw the schism, a time when unity threatened power. A faction neither fully Vorit nor Illyrian had engineered the divide, sowing fear, fabricating myths, rewriting the past. Two sides were born from one people manipulated into war to preserve the control of a hidden elite. Kale staggered back. We were designed to hate each other. Lyra's voice trembled. For generations, Kale clenched his fists, no more. But they weren't alone. A sharp hum broke. The silence. Rethen stepped into the chamber, flanked by black-armored soldiers. I had a feeling you'd find this place, he said. Kale stepped in front of Lyra. You followed me. No, Rethen said, lifting a device. I led you here. He activated the signal. The sphere's light flickered then, dimmed. The truth is a dangerous thing, Kale, he said. People don't want it. They want order, obedience. History is written by those strong enough to silence the rest. You knew, Kale said, horrified. I helped create it, Rethen said. You think war is chaos? War is control. It gives people purpose. Fear unites better than hope. You manipulated billions. Lyra whispered. And I will continue to, Rethen said, unless you die here. He raised his weapon. But before he could fire, the temple responded. Roots erupted from the ground, lashing the soldiers back. Light from the murals surged. The truth once awakened would not be silenced again. The sphere flared, burning with ancestral fury. It scanned Kale and Lyra. Their connection, their unity. It responded not with violence, but song. A harmonic wave burst outward, disabling weapons, tearing deception from the walls, sending truth across the ether, not just in the borderlands, but into every Vorit and Illyrian system. The secret was out. Rethen screamed as the light engulfed him. You fools, you'll burn the world down. Kale held Lyra's hand. No, he said, we'll rebuild it. As the temple quieted, the signal continued broadcasting, embedding itself in minds across both species, no longer a whisper, but a reckoning, above ground. Ships scrambled, cities blinked with new data, entire generations felt a tremor in their bones. Something had shifted forever. News of the temple's revelation spread like wildfire, igniting a chain reaction that shattered old orders and sent shockwaves through the Vorit and Illyrian worlds. Broadcasts interrupted propaganda. Messages flooded every channel, proof that their long-standing hatred was built on deception. In the Illyrian capital, crowds gathered outside Citadel Astra, holding up makeshift signs demanding peace and truth. Some cried tears of relief, others screamed betrayal. Security forces tried to contain the unrest, but the tide was unstoppable. Kale stood on the steps of a public forum, flanked by Lyra, whose exile had become a symbol of resistance. Together, they addressed a sea of faces, young and old, alien and human alike, people hungry for hope after centuries of war. We are not enemies, Kale said, voice ringing with conviction. We are one people, divided by lies. Today, we choose to write a new history together. Lyra stepped forward. The path will not be easy. There are those who fear change, who profit from our division. But we have the truth on our side, and that truth cannot be silenced. Cheers erupted, but beneath the celebration, dark currents stirred. In the shadowed chambers of the High Council, Commander Rethen plotted with other warlords and loyalists. They branded Kale and Lyra as traitors, threats to the fragile order that kept their power intact. The masses are fickle, Rethen sneered. We will use their passion to crush this rebellion and make sure peace means submission. Across the border, Vorit elders convened in secrecy. They summoned elite enforcers to hunt down dissidents and quell the growing resistance. But Kale and Lyra moved quickly. They reached out to underground networks, connecting scattered cells of sympathizers. Their movement became a beacon, drawing in soldiers weary of endless conflict, scientists hungry for collaboration, and artists who dreamed of unity. Together, they uncovered more hidden records, shared languages, combined technologies, even genetic markers proving their intertwined ancestry. Yet the resistance was fractured. Factions argued over tactics, some urged caution. Others demanded immediate overthrow of old regimes. Kale wrestled with leadership's burden. The weight of thousands of lives pressed down on him. One night, as the city lights flickered under curfew, Lyra found him staring at the glowing crystal. Its light dim but persistent. "Fear is natural," she said softly, "but so is courage." He looked at her, gratitude mingling with uncertainty. "We have to trust each other," she continued. "If we fall apart now, everything we fought for will be lost." The days grew darker as skirmishes broke out in the streets. Propaganda machines blasted lies about foreign infiltrators and saboteurs. But hope was spreading. Too, a new dawn was on the horizon. The city pulsed with tension. Every shadow held a threat. Every whisper carried the weight of impending violence. The fragile alliance Kale and Lyra had built was under siege from within and without. Intelligence reports confirmed what they feared most. Commander Rethan and a coalition of hardline warlords were orchestrating a coup. Their goal was clear: to crush the burgeoning unity movement and restore a regime of fear and division. In the dimly lit war room beneath the Resistance's hideout, Kale stared at the holographic map flickering above the table. Red markers blinked ominously: troop movements, planned strikes, and potential targets. "We have to strike first," Kale said, voice steady but fierce. "If they seize control of Citadel Astra or the Vorat High Council, it's over." Lyra nodded, her expression grim. "But a direct assault could trigger full-scale war. We need to be smarter. We must expose their plans to the people, undermine their support." The room fell silent. Every face reflected the weight of impossible odds. Suddenly, a calm alert beeped. Tara's voice crackled through. "We intercepted a transmission. They're mobilizing a strike team tonight, targeting the Temple of Origins." Kel's heart clenched. That temple was their symbol, their proof. Its destruction would mean erasing the truth forever. "We can't let that happen," Lyra whispered. The resistance scrambled. Volunteers armed themselves, preparing to defend the sacred site. Kale and Lyra led the advance, racing through the twisted streets toward the borderlands. At the temple's entrance, they found their forces already engaged. Explosions shattered the night as elite soldiers tried to breach the ancient chambers. Kale fired his rifle, covering Lyra as she moved to reactivate the temple's defenses. The bioluminescent veins flared, creating a barrier of light, but the enemy pressed on. Rethan appeared amid the chaos, flanked by his personal guards. "This ends now," he snarled. Raising his weapon, Kale stepped forward. "It ends when the people choose peace." Rethan laughed bitterly. "You're naive. Power is won through strength, not dreams." A brutal fight erupted. Kale and Rethan clashed in a fierce duel, blades flashing, wills locked. Meanwhile, Lyra completed the temple's activation. The sphere hummed, broadcasting the truth across the network once more. Suddenly, reinforcements arrived, soldiers who had defected from Rethan's command. Inspired by the undeniable truth, outnumbered, Rethan snarled and retreated, vowing this was not the last battle. As dawn broke, Kale and Lyra stood amidst the ruins, exhausted but unbroken. "We've won a battle," Kale said, voice hoarse, "but the war for unity has just begun." Lyra took his hand, strength flowing between them. "Together, we can build a future where no one is forced to choose sides." The crystal pulsed warmly at their feet, a beacon of hope shining into the uncertain light of a new day. The Unity Accord, once a dream whispered in secret chambers, now echoed across both Vorat and Alarian space. Systems that had long burned under banners of war began lowering their weapons and raising white beacon signals of peace. Across orbital stations, moon colonies, and forest citadels, more worlds pledged loyalty to the vision Kale and Lyra carried. They became symbols, not just lovers from rival species, but living proof that hatred could be unlearned, But with hope came fear, in the capital of Virelin Prime. Kale stood before a vast crowd. His voice carried through loudspeakers and streams alike. "We are not here to erase your pasts," he said. "We are here to give your children a future." The applause was thunderous. But Lyra, standing at his side, sensed something beneath at knees rippling like static through the air. Later that night, in their private quarters aboard the Unity flagship, her eyes in flame, Kale stared at a dossier. "Governor Thaler from the Kryn system just withdrew his support," he said. "He claims cultural incompatibility, but the truth is, he's being paid off." "By whom?" Lyra asked, though she already suspected. Kel's jaw tightened. "The Dominion Council. What's left of them? They've gone underground raising mercenaries, planting lies. They're framing us as extremists who want to erase heritage and force assimilation." Lyra sighed. "We knew there would be backlash, but now it's not just weapons, it's words, fear." Kale nodded slowly. "And someone's feeding them our plans." There was silence between them, heavy, suspicious, but it wasn't until 2 days later that the truth struck. A covert transmission was intercepted. Coordinates to a critical resistance armory had been leaked by someone on their high council. Kale gathered the core leadership, including trusted commanders and diplomats. He played the message aloud, a distorted voice, masked tone, but unmistakable words, a betrayal from within. As tension built in the room, Lyra stood motionless, her eyes narrowed. "That voice," she whispered, "I know it." All eyes turned to her. "It's Vexen," she said. "One of mine, a former Vorid envoy." Kel's heart sank. Vexen had been instrumental in negotiating with the outer colonies. If he'd turned, a chase followed. Cloaked ships pursued Vexen's vessel across asteroid belts and nebula storms. When they finally captured him, his face bore no regret. "You built a dream," Vexen sneered at Kale. "But dreams are weak. Real power lives in tradition, division, fear." "We offered you peace," Lyra said, "and you offered us extinction." Vexen spat back. "You would dilute us, make us forget who we are. I would rather rule ashes than kneel to unity." They locked him away, but the damage rippled. Fear and doubt seeped into even their closest allies. That night, Kale sat alone in the observatory deck, watching the stars wheel silently. He didn't notice Lyra's presence until she placed a hand on his shoulder. "We've come too far to lose faith," she said softly. Kale looked up. "What if they're right? What if we are asking too much?" Lyra shook her head. "Then let them ask their questions. But we don't answer with weapons, we answer with what they've never seen. A world where love, not fear, leads." He smiled faintly. "I always knew you'd be the stronger one. I'm only strong because you are." She replied. The stars shimmered around them, to hands clasped tightly in the darkness, to hearts holding the fragile light of a future still being written. The emergency transmission came in fragments, screams, static, and then silence. Kale and Lyra stood frozen in the command chamber of the Horizon Flame, the blue light of the holoscreen casting ghostly shadows on their faces. The message had originated from the Holustri system, a neutral federation of 3 planets that had served as a tentative bridge between the Vorit and Galarian territories, and now it was gone. A sudden, inexplicable massacre, over 300,000 civilians dead, no survivors. Lyra's voice trembled. "Replay the last transmission." The technician obeyed. The audio returned crackling, chaotic, and then, amidst the noise, a chilling voice rang out. "In the name of unity, your blood sanctifies peace." Kel's fists clenched. It wasn't his voice, but it sounded eerily familiar. Within hours, the galaxy ignited with fury. Media channels looped the quote. Protesters flooded the streets in dozens of systems. Former allies denounced the Unity Accord. Accusations flew, claims that Kale and Lyra had orchestrated the attack to coerce the Holustri into submission. Council members who once stood by their side began to withdraw. Kale stared out the viewport, watching the once growing constellation of Unity dim, planet by planet. Lyra paced behind him. This was deliberate, a false flag. Kale turned. "They've weaponized our message. We're still." Evidence emerged. A Unity vessel had been recorded leaving the Holustri orbit moments before the destruction. A corvette registered under resistance command. Sabotage, infiltration. But the truth didn't matter. Perception did. A meeting of the Unity Council was convened in the floating chambers of Orthan Prime. Kale and Lyra stood before the council members, some allies, most now skeptics. A Vorat chancellor slammed her fist on the table. How do we know you didn't authorize this? You speak of peace, but your hands drip with blood. Lyra responded sharply. You've seen the work we've done, the systems we've helped rebuild, the lives we've saved, and yet you've become larger than any one world. Another counselor sneered. Your influence is dangerous. Kel's voice was low but firm. If seeking peace makes us dangerous, then so be it. But we didn't kill those people, and deep down, you all know it. The council recessed without resolution. No vote, no justice, only silence. That night, in the dimmed corridors of the ship, Lyra leaned against the cold metal wall. We're losing them, she whispered. Everything's slipping. Kale approached, placing a hand on her shoulder. Then we hold to what can't be shaken. She turned to him, eyes searching. What's left to hold? He looked into her eyes. You, outside. An encrypted message arrived, anonymous, coded. It contained raw footage of a stealth ship, bearing Dominion insignia, deploying orbital weapons over Holestry. Proof. But the message ended with a chilling warning. They'll come for you before you can speak. Kale and Lyra exchanged a glance. We need to get this out, she said. Kale nodded. And we need to survive long enough to make them listen. The stakes had changed. This was no longer just about uniting worlds. Now, it was about clearing their names and stopping a hidden enemy who would burn the galaxy to preserve the lie. The stealth ship rocked under enemy fire. Kale gripped the edge of the console as Lyra rerouted power to the shields. Sparks flew overhead. Hull integrity dropped below 40%. Outside the viewport, a fleet of interceptor drones unmarked, but clearly Dominion-engineered, pursued them through the Corin Nebula's dense gas clouds. They found us faster than expected, Kale muttered, teeth clenched. Because someone inside our circle told them exactly where we'd be, Lyra snapped. They had the footage, the truth, proof that the Holestry massacre had been an orchestrated Dominion plot. But they were being hunted like fugitives, cut off from every safe channel, every allied network. Lyra glanced at the encrypted drive clasped to her chest. We get this out, and the lie dies. Kale activated the cloak. The ship dipped into a lower trajectory, narrowly avoiding a barrage of plasma mines. Destination, Lyra asked. Old Station Ember. Off-grid. Hidden in the asteroid belt near SYRX-9. Lyra frowned. Isn't that where I trained as a rebel? Before the Accord. Before all this. Lyra didn't argue. They arrived hours later. Ember was little more than a derelict station, its lights flickering, its corridors echoing with ghosts of old wars. But the old calm ray still hummed barely. Kale connected the encrypted drive. We'll patch it through every comm line, military and civilian, he said. Even if they shut us down, the data will scatter like seeds. Lyra stood watch near the hatch. Her fingers hovered over her sidearm. Footsteps echoed. Contact, she whispered. Kel's fingers flew over the keys. 30 more seconds. The hatch hissed open. 3 figures entered, armored, faces concealed. But the voice that followed chilled them both. I told you they'd come here, said a familiar tone. One they had trusted. Tara. Lyra's voice cracked. You? Tara removed her helmet. Her eyes were filled with sorrow. You don't understand. The Dominion promised order. After the chaos, after what we lost, I couldn't believe in your dream anymore. Kale rose slowly. So you fed them our plans. Let Holestry burn. I didn't know what they'd do. Tara said, voice shaking. I thought they'd force compliance, not slaughter. One of the soldiers stepped forward, raising his weapon. Lyra fired first. The chamber erupted in chaos. Kale dove behind the console as bolts of plasma shredded metal. Lyra moved with surgical precision, disabling two attackers before ducking behind a support beam. Tara aimed at Kale. Stop, he shouted. You knew me before any of this. You know what we stand for. Tara's hand trembled. I believed in you, she whispered. But I don't believe in peace anymore. Then she turned the gun on herself. Lyra reached her too late. The silence that followed was Deafening, Kale slowly returned to the terminal, blood on the keys, final line of code blinking. Signal locked, he whispered. Broadcast in 3, 2. The holoscreen lit up, then exploded into hundreds of fragmented windows, planets, cities, councils. The footage played across the stars. The Dominion ship, the orbital weapons, the real voice behind the false quote. The massacre laid bare. Lyra dropped to her knees, exhausted. Kale sat beside her, his hand in hers. Somewhere, light was returning, but not everyone would accept the truth. Not yet. Not without a final reckoning. The truth scorched across the stars like wildfire. From the frost-ringed moons of Trelos to the oceanic spires of Velatria, citizens watched the footage in stunned silence. The Holestri massacre, once blamed on Kale and Lyra, now stood exposed as a Dominion-engineered ploy. The illusion shattered. Riots broke out in anger, in grief, in vindication. Loyalists to the old regimes lashed out. Unity sympathizers emerged from hiding. In just hours, the galaxy cracked open, not into chaos, but into choice. Choose the future or cling to the past. Inside the command deck of the Horizon Flame, Kale stood before a map blinking red across half its systems. We've shaken the foundations, he said. But what rises next may not be peace. Lyra stared at the data. 23 fleets are moving. Some in support, some in retaliation. Kel's voice lowered. The Dominion's not finished. They've rallied under a single name now, the Purity Circle. They're calling us contaminants. Lyra's jaw clenched. They want to end this not with truth, but with fire. An emergency signal pinged. Kale opened it. It was from Alaris, Lyra's homeworld. The screen flickered to show explosions. Over its capital domes, a Dominion super dreadnought hovered in orbit, charging its main weapon. A synthesized voice delivered a message. We will cleanse what Unity has stained. Starting with your roots. Lyra's hand went cold. They're going to wipe out my entire planet to send a message. Kale turned to her, eyes resolute. Then we stop them. Now, we've exposed them. We've united. Enough fleets. It's not just about saving Alaris, it's about ending this forever. She looked at him, really looked, tanned in his eyes. She saw the weight of every sacrifice, every betrayal, and every dream. I won't lose you, she whispered. Kale reached for her hand. Then don't. Fight with me. The Unity Armada launched 12 hours later. A coalition like no galaxy had seen before. Vorit raiders, Illyrian sentinels, Holestri survivors, and dozens of other species once enemies, now allies. The Horizon Flame led the charge. At the edge of Alaris orbit, the Dominion's fleet waited sleek, cold, unyielding. Their flagship, the Absolution, eclipsed a small moon. Kale opened comms. This is Kale Vorn of the Unity Accord. Lay down your arms. The truth is out. This war ends today. Silence. Then the reply. You think truth matters to those who fear it. You brought rot into order. And now we'll cauterize the wound. The skies erupted. Plasma fire screamed through the void. Ships broke formation. Fighters clashed like swarming insects around a dying sun. The Horizon Flame dove into the chaos, its railguns lighting up enemy cruisers. Kale took the helm. Cut through their right flank. If we take down the Absolution, the rest will fall. Lyra sat beside him at weapons. Let's make them believe in something they can't kill. They plunged through debris fields, their ship battered, but unyielding. Round them, allies fell, sacrifices mounted. But for every ship lost, 2 more rallied. As they neared the Absolution, the Dominion flagship locked its superweapon on Alaris. Lyra shouted, "They're going to fire." Kale swerved the Horizon Flame directly into the firing line. Lyra stared at him. Kale, no more worlds burned. Not for us, not for them. Lyra's hand flew. Over controls, not today. With a last burst of power, they fired a concentrated ion pulse into the Absolution's core. A blinding explosion tore the sky open. The Absolution shattered, the superweapon powered down. And across the battlefield, Dominion vessels hesitated, then scattered. Silence returned, not peace, but something close. Hours later, in the orbit of a saved Alaris, Kale and Lyra stood alone on the observation deck. Bruised, burned out alive. You think this is it? Lyra asked. The start of something better, Kale nodded. Not the end of war, but the beginning of memory. She leaned into him. And us, Kale smiled. We were never just about unity between species. We were about proving love can defy gravity, politics, even blood. Below them, the once divided world shimmered. One world, one sky, two hearts that dared to change the stars. The garden bloomed where once there had been nothing but dust and cratered stone. It rested on the surface of Alaris's fourth moon, once a barren satellite, now transformed into a living archive, a memorial to the war that almost ended everything and the unity that rose from its ashes. Children ran between luminous trees whose leaves changed color with every breath of wind. Statues of stone and starlight lined the walkways, fallen leaders, unnamed heroes, and in the center a sculpture of two figures reaching for one another, not yet touching, forever suspended in the moment between fear and faith. Kale stood beneath the statue, his hair silver now, his stance less rigid, but no less grounded. The years had carved quiet into him, not resignation. He heard footsteps behind him, light, familiar. Lyra. She no longer wore her command leathers, only simple robes of woven Illyrian silk. Her presence was still electric. As if the galaxy remembered her pulse, they stood in silence for a while, watching two children half Vorit, half Illyrian draw stars in the dirt. How long has it been since the accord was signed? She asked softly. 10 years, Kale said. To the day, and the last time we held a weapon. He chuckled. Let's not jinx it. She smiled. The kind of smile that once started revolutions and now healed quietly. They say time is a spiral, she said. But I think we've finally reached a point we don't have to circle back to. Kale looked at her. We lost a lot. We found more, she replied. We made something no one thought was possible. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, a holorecorder. With a click, it projected the first message they had ever broadcast together. Garbled, raw, honest. Lyra leaned into his shoulder. We were so young, she whispered. We were just brave enough. Kale said. They stood there, two veterans of love and war, no longer trying to save the galaxy, only tending it. Above them, the stars shifted, slow and eternal, no longer divided by politics or species or fear, just light. And below them, the roots of peace grew deeper with every passing day. The end.